United stand, Ten Hag ready to walk from Manchester United. And also, he speaks about the one thing that has destroyed this season for Manchester United. We're going to get into that. Obviously, it's a big, big day for Manchester United fans. It's a big day for Coventry City fans. FA Cup semi-final time at Wembley this afternoon. We'll be live with all the build-up for that later on. But let's get into the latest Manchester United news, because there's a lot of stuff going on this morning. And this story that Erik Ten Hag could walk from Manchester United. We'll start with that one, then we'll talk about the thing that he says has destroyed the season, and of course, it could be a multitude of things. Ineos, the Glazers, all sorts of things, but we'll start off with this story that he could walk out of Manchester United. It's coming in from the Mirror, and it's coming in from a journalist that we've always said with the Mirror, there seems to be a little bit of a relationship or something close to Ten Hag, because they've always been pretty good over the last 18 months. And this story is basically saying that Erik Ten Hag is looking for a vote of confidence from Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos to say, look, you're the guy we want for next season. And if that doesn't come, then by the end of the season, he may well have made his mind up that he wants to walk away from Manchester United. Now, the story goes on to say that he's got a good relationship with Ajax, and Ajax would welcome him back with open arms. So, look, this is the night before, well, this is the story came out the night before a massive game for Manchester United. Do I think Erik Ten Hag wants to walk out of Manchester United? No, I don't. Do I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer wanted to walk? Do I think Mourinho wanted to walk? Do I think Van Gaal wanted to walk? Again, there is a cycle around Manchester United that if you've been watching these shows long enough, doing them long enough, then you start to recognise themes. With the injuries that we've picked up last night, which we're going to talk about in a moment, I said 3 weeks ago, this reminds me of Rangnick 2 years ago. What happened 2 years ago is we started playing incredibly shit at this time of the year with Rangnick, like worse than we were shit, but we started playing incredibly shit. And then we also started picking up weird injuries, more injuries. And people go, oh, it's the way that they're running. We'll talk about that in a minute. I don't think it's the way they're running. I think it's to do with this. And this happened with Rangnick as well. You can see it on the pitch and you see it off the pitch. Some of these players just don't fancy it. It's not a nice time to play for Man United, and some of them just don't fancy it. It's like, I've spoken to players from all generations that have played for Manchester United, and one of the things we always talk about is injuries. And you can speak to a certain player that played in '94, or you can speak to a player that played in the noughties, and you can ask them this question, and I've been told it more than once. They will say, injuries really, unless you're having an operation, most people will get on with it and play. They'll play through the pain barrier. We've seen that with Bruno Fernandes. You know, a little bit of a muscle twinge or, you know, a bit of a knock, that can keep certain players out for 3 weeks. Other players will play with it. And that's just the way it is. And modern science, whatever, that's just the way it is. Because a physio can look at a player and say, how do you feel? And if they say fine, then the player will probably play. But if a player says, oh, I can feel my calf, I think I need a couple of weeks off. I remember speaking to Ben Foster about it, and I'm not going to name the player because it wasn't a Man United player, but it was when he was at another club, and he said there was a certain player that always was a brilliant player, but mentally he'd train on a Thursday, and on a Friday you just wouldn't fancy it because they don't have that mentality. And I think United have collected players like this, and this happened under Rangnick, and I think it's happening now. They're looking at the situation, they're looking at the heat, they're looking at how it might impact them, and I don't think some of them fancy it. And you can dig out Bruno and you can dig out Rashford, but to be fair, they do put a shirt on every week. I mean, whoop-de-doo. You know, it's a Man United shirt. They should be running around and giving blood for it. But some of them just don't fancy it. They don't. I'm going to say I'm going to say it says Globetrotter. All of you fickle fans who want Ten Hag out need to give your head a wobble. You all know the real reasons for our failure. Stop it. Well, we'll talk about that in a moment. But look, is Ten Hag going to walk? Let's get back on track. And then we'll talk about the thing that Ten Hag has said destroyed his season. I don't think Ten Hag wants to walk. I think we're going through a cycle here again. And I think what's happening is, and it happened with Mourinho and it happened with Ole, I remember specifically people saying, if I was Ole, I'd walk. I'd quit. The Glazers have given him an impossible mission. I would walk. I would quit. And people said it with Jose, and people said it with Van Gaal, and I think it's just Ten Hag's turn. Ten Hag might walk away from Man United because he's fed up of everything that's going wrong behind him. I don't think he's walking at all. I don't think he's contemplating walking. Ollie didn't want to walk. Mourinho didn't want to walk. Van Gaal didn't want to walk. And Ten Hag doesn't want to walk. It's just the cycle that we go through every 3 years where at some point we'll start saying, Ten Hag should walk. You know, he's been treated really badly. He could walk. He's not going to walk. From a financial point of view, he's not going to walk anyway because it's about £10 million to get sacked. But if you actually read the story in the Mirror, I mean, maybe you, like me, just read a story and see what it is. I can read a story that Man United are linked to a player. I can read the actual story and go, this is not coming from United. This is coming from an agent. It's very clear. This story in the Mirror is not coming from Ten Hag. This is coming from Ajax. The story is just very easy to read. It starts off with Ten Hag might walk from Manchester United if Ajax get their way. Straight away, that's a bit of a clue. Basically, Ajax have got rid of their CEO. The fans want to bring the CEO back. The CEO is a lifelong friend of Ten Hag. If they bring that CEO back and they're looking for a manager and Ten Hag gets sacked by Manchester United, then Ten Hag could end up back at Ajax. But it's really all about the CEO who has been removed and wants to go back, who is friends with Ten Hag. There's nothing in there that says to me that Ten Hag is seriously thinking about quitting Manchester United for Ajax. I don't think Ten Hag wants to go back to Ajax. It would be a step backwards. If it's his only option, he might do. I just don't. I don't think it. I actually saw somebody on Twitter. I mean, this is incredible. I'm not naming them because it's not fair, but I actually saw somebody on Twitter saying that it's funny how Ten Hag allows a story like this to get leaked out the night before a game, but when Paul Pogba did it through Riola, he was the enemy. And I was like, oh my God, this is either crap banter or stupidity. So Mino Raiola doing interviews with the press the night before a Champions League knockout game that we need to win, you know, slagging off the team and the manager, is the same as a Mirror article that's talking about the Ajax CEO and potentially Ten Hag going back there. It's got no fingerprints of Ten Hag on it at all. People are going to hate, aren't they? So absolutely incredible. I personally don't think there's anything in it. But what I will admit is we don't know whether Ten Hag's going to be the manager at the end of the season. If he's not the manager, maybe he does go back to Ajax. Because today is absolutely huge. Today is absolutely massive. If we were to lose against Coventry, then today would be a problem. Now, this community we've built, this amazing community, gets a lot of stick. And I was doing watch-alongs last night for the Cup semi-final. I mean, unbelievable. The refereeing, I'm going to do a video on That's Football this morning. I'm going to lose my shit, actually. But that's for that. Somebody in the group chat while we were live on the watch-along on That's Football was saying, when are you going to do the video on United Stand about the injuries? Because we found out that Kamwala's injured, Amrabat's injured, Mason Mount is injured. And I said, I'm not doing it. Because let other people do videos and articles on it. I'm not doing a video on 3 injuries before a big game because I'm not being negative and giving that as a reason for everybody to promote and antagonize and fire up whatever agenda they've got about why the injuries are happening. I'm not surprised by these injuries. I don't know why people are getting their knickers in a twist. People are blaming Ten Hag. People are blaming the Glazers. People are blaming the players. The truth of why we get so many injuries is multi-layered. And if you don't understand that, then you're lost. Like the reason we get so many injuries is just very, very, very clear. There's a multitude of reasons. There's not one reason. Some people want to say that we're getting all these injuries because Ten Hag runs the players too hard. Riddle me this. Do Manchester United, when they play football over the last 18 months, ever look like a team that can run as hard as Liverpool, Brighton, Manchester City, Arsenal, Aston Villa, Spurs, Newcastle? No, we don't look like we can run anywhere near as much as those teams. There's probably 9 or 10 teams that can run quicker and longer and for longer than we do. So if you're the manager of a team that is way behind everybody else in relation to fitness, energy and running, what would you do with them? Would you go, well, I'm the manager of Man United, it's my neck on the line, I'm just going to let them carry on being a shit counter-attacking team that doesn't run much? Or are you going to try and get them fitter? So when people say it's on Ten Hag that we're getting all these injuries, what is it you want him to do? People moan about style of play all fucking season. They moan that we're nothing like Man City all season. And then we obviously are trying to get these players to run more for longer, and they can't deal with it. So it's Ten Hag's fault. I don't even understand on any level the people who talk about the injuries are because of Ten Hag. Because what is it you want to do then? Because again, it's like sacking the manager and then not having a plan about who's going to come in. It's just moaning for moaning's sake. So even if it was on Ten Hag, even if Ten Hag's running these players too hard and that's why they're getting injured, what is he supposed to do? Because we're nowhere near running as much as Newcastle and they're not even in the top 4. So do you want to just be a mid-table team that plays counter-attacking football? Because that won't be accepted either. The bottom line is we have a collection of players that are not mentally and physically strong enough to play for a top 6 club. They're not. Their bodies can't deal with it. Now, that might be age, that might be mentality, that might be fitness, that might be body physics, that might be type of player. There will be a multitude of reasons, but we've got a collection of players that cannot put the work in that you need to do. If you gave Ten Hag Newcastle's squad, or you gave Ten Hag Villa's squad, or you gave Ten Hag Man City's squad, the training wouldn't be a problem because they have players that are used to that. On top of that, you've also got a medical department that's crap. It's crap. Martinez has been out all season. One of the reasons is because he had to have the same operation twice. Malacia's had to have the same thing twice. So there's another reason for you. I also think that I mentioned Newcastle. Newcastle have had a lot of injuries this season because they played a lot of football last season and then they haven't got a massive squad and this season it's killed them. Manchester United last season played 3 games a week from Boxing Day to the start of June. We had a next to no summer and then we went into a new season. So I think there's a legacy problem from that last season as well, and Newcastle have had the same problem. But people don't want to have this conversation. They want to just blame it on one thing. If you want to talk about injuries, it's so easy. There's a multitude of reasons as to why it's gone wrong, and there is one solution as to how you fix it. And it's not sacking the medical department, it's not sacking Ten Hag, it is clearing out the playing squad. If you got rid of 10 players from Man United's squad and you brought in 10 players that actually can deal with the modern game, they actually can run, they actually are fit, their bodies aren't going to break, then you will see a massive change next season. The way to get rid of these injury problems is to remove the vast majority of that squad over the next 2 to 3 years and replace it with people that Man City have got, or Liverpool have got, or Arsenal have got. Because there are players out there, I've seen it with Man City. Look at Phil Foden yesterday. Look at Bernardo Silva. They ran for 120 minutes on Wednesday night, and then they're doing it again on Saturday night. And neither of them are going to not play on Thursday because they've got a hamstring pull or a calf strain. We don't have the right set of players to play the modern game because our last 2 managers spent a lot of money on counter-attacking park the bus players. We don't have the right profile of players at Man United. You cannot polish a turd. And that is the big problem. That is the big problem at United. And these people who blame it on Ten Hag, I don't understand who you are. So what you're basically saying is you're sticking up for the players that haven't delivered over the last few years and saying that they're being trained too hard. Let's just keep giving them a couple of $100,000 a week to do fuck all then. Let's make their life even easier. It's absolutely mad. Nando, thanks very much. Welcome to the Members Club. Get Thomas Frank and build up the team from the back, says Stephen. Can we block Stephen, moderators, please? If I ever see a comment like that again, you will be blocked, Stephen. Thomas Frank is just David Moyes. David Moyes did a great job at Everton for many years. His football is not top 6 football. Thomas Frank has done a great job at Brentford. He survives on 30% possession, mate. Jog on with you, Thomas Frank. I saw Pep's comments last night after City game in regards to the players' health from playing over 120 minutes midweek and felt ashamed for our players, says Z3. A story with Might is in it is worthless. I might hook up with Megan Fox and Margot Robbie at the same time. Not likely, but I might, says Pete. Welcome to Members Club, Jakin. Smalling is a similar player, mentally weak, now a wreck, was partly responsible for Mourinho's sack at Roma, says Yannick. Morning, Mark. Drunk in America can't wait for the match and the watch-along, says Derek. Are we going to blame injuries to Martinez and Shaw for Ten Hag still picking Rashford and Casemiro, says Mr. Glenn Johnson. And I'm going to say it, all of you have done that one. Look, in relation to the injuries, I've also seen people on Twitter today saying no excuses, even though we've got injured. And I feel like going, some of our fans really are thick. Like, I'm going into the Coventry game massively confident. But you can't sit there and be what they're basically doing is they're being disrespectful to Coventry. I've seen people go, More injuries, but no excuses. What they're really writing is, yeah, we've got injuries, but I want to sack Ten Hag. Like, of course there's fucking excuses today. We've got no centre-backs apart from Harry Maguire. We've got no left-back. The midfield is going to be God knows what. Of course that is an excuse going into a game like this. And you can't just say we've got major injuries, but it's no excuse not to beat Coventry. Because what you're basically saying is we should beat Coventry with injuries because they're shit. And they're not. It will be a hard game later, and if we win the game, it will be a well-deserved battle where I think the players and the manager deserve credit. But obviously, this is why I didn't want to do a video last night, because I don't want to be in this conversation where this injury thing is being twisted into, well, it's not an excuse, or, you know, it's the end of the world. It is what it is. That's what it is. I'm not going to say it's not an excuse, because it is. But I'm also not going to say that, you know, it's the end of the world, because I expected it. It's been going on all season. Michael Doherty says, I'm old enough to respect all teams in the FA Cup. I'm just tired of people saying, oh, there's no excuses for having a massive injury crisis because it's Coventry. Fuck off. Like, just keep your mouth shut. Like, Coventry are a good side. They're on the border of playoffs. This is going to be their biggest game in years, and they're going to be energetic. Correct me if I'm wrong, we went to Bournemouth last week. Most people would expect us to beat Bournemouth. They played us off the park because they're energetic. So what are we? Not energetic. We struggle with being energetic. So Coventry will give us a game. Of course they'll give us a game. I'm desperate for this mess to end. The summer will be interesting, I suppose. Ten Hag being here will be like a new signing too, says Jay. Nandu, welcome to the Members Club. Told you it's not, Joel Glazer. Okay, thank you very much. All players and coaching, whatever. Okay, we're trying to have a serious conversation here. But look, it's in the title. We've had a bit of our say, but I think it's important to give Erik ten Hag his say on this. There was a couple of quotes that came out from his press conferences yesterday, and effectively what he had to say about the situation at Manchester United and what has destroyed the season was very, very interesting. He basically said, injuries are normal in football, but not as many as we've had in crucial positions. That's my truth. Others can see it differently, but I can't put any energy into that. I have to see it realistically and rationally. And what he was basically saying is that the truth of this season is that the injury crisis has been abnormal. It's been incredible. It's been absolutely stupid. And he also went on to say that, look, I don't have any concern. What concerns me is that in the last 18 months, I've never had my favourite team on the pitch once because players were injured. That's my concern. In fact, there was only one time against Man City at home last season. That is the only time I had a full squad to pick my full team. And when you talk about what's destroyed our season, it's a very honest truth from Ten Hag that it absolutely has made a massive difference to us this season. I've never known an injury crisis like it. I remember saying at Christmas time, a lot of people in the chat were saying, when we get our big players back, I think we'll go on a really good run and we'll get top four. And I said, we won't get our players back. And some people were like, well, we will. And I said, we won't, because it will get worse. It won't get better. If you've got an injury crisis from August till Christmas, what do you think happens in the latter half of the season? Players are more tired. They're more fatigued. They're more prone to injury. But I'm going to just say this, because I'm not naming names, so it doesn't matter. Having spoken to a number of ex-players in the game over the years, every human being is different. And in football, there are players that don't fancy it. And I think we've collected a lot of players that just don't fancy it. On top of that, even if they do fancy it, some of those players aren't good enough. So we've got a horrible mix in our squad of a lot of players who just don't fancy it because they're never fit, and a lot of players who do fancy it but aren't good enough. And that's a bad mix. You can search and search and search for reasons why United are struggling, but ultimately every reason comes back to the same thing. We need a clear out of that playing squad. If you're blaming it on the Glazers and the sale, Ineos need to clear out that playing staff. If you're blaming it on injuries, well, we need to clear out the players and bring better players in that aren't injury prone in and with a better mentality. If you're blaming it on Ten Hag, well, we need to clear out the playing squad and give him players that play the way he wants to play. So I think we go round and round the houses, but I've done this long enough to know what people say in the chat. And you've been saying it every summer transfer window for about 10 years. We need to get rid of the deadwood. And we've never done it. And people want to throw new problems into the arena, but we've never got rid of the deadwood. I remember the summer of Van Gaal, people were saying we've got to get rid of the deadwood. That's nearly 10 years ago. We have to get rid of the deadwood. That's what we have to do. And everything will become clearer after that. Because next season, if we bring 7 or 8 players in that aren't injury prone, who can run, and we still struggle to play football, then you look at something else. If we bring those same players in and we're still getting massive injury problems, then you look at something else. But to me, the number one issue in that Manchester United football club is the fact that we've paid stupid money for stupid players for stupid amounts of time, and it's time for a clear out. We need to clear out as much as we can and replace it with players that could play for Arsenal, that could play for Liverpool, that could play for Man City. Proper scouting, mentality, home life, body, the lot. Not just they scored a good goal and match of the day. Like literally, the physical background of these players is as important of what they do on the pitch in some ways. How they behave off the pitch is as important as how they play on the pitch, because our recruitment has failed on so... If there's a way to fuck up a signing, we've done everything. We've bought the injury-prone player, we've bought the bad attitude player, we've bought the lazy player, we've bought the brand player. We've done everything, apart from consistently buying the right player. And that is something that's an open goal for Ineos. So, look, if you're one of those people who last night heard that Mount was injured and Camboire was injured and Amrabat was injured and went, it's on the manager and the way he's training the players, please start to learn about football in a deeper level, because how does that even make sense? We are one of the laziest teams in the Premier League, and you're moaning at the manager for trying to make them get fitter, and then their bodies can't deal with it. Well, I would rather the manager kept running them and they kept breaking, so we can see who breaks and fuck them off. It's like testing a toy, isn't it? If you're trying to sell a toy for Christmas, they don't just make something that looks amazing. They'll get people to throw it down the stairs. They'll get people to play around with it for hours because they want to test its durability. I can't believe that people would even blame the manager for testing the durability of these players to find out whether they're up to it. What are you actually saying? Well, he shouldn't train them so hard. He should mollycoddle them. He should wrap them in cotton wool and, will basically carry on being a lazy shit team. I don't think Ten Hag is training these players into the ground. I don't think that's the reason. I think there's a multitude of reasons for it. But if he was, good. Good. Because if I was Ineos, I'd look at it and go, we are miles away from the best teams in the league in relation to physical output. He's trying to get them up there. And as he's trying to push them up there, these people are falling away. Well, fuck them off. I don't know what people think. I sometimes read social media and I go, what's your point? They're going, this is another reason to get rid of Ten Hag. He's running them too hard. Look, if we were topping the running stats and he was running them even harder, fine. But we don't. We're miles behind. And I'm not going to say anything about Camboire. He stepped up to the plate. Amrabat has been a fucking waste of time. I mean, he's basically been injured most of the season, if we be honest. Amrabat's been a fucking waste of time. I said it after Man City, and a load of people gave me shit because of what I said. I lost my shit with Amrabat in the Manchester derby when he played that lazy fucking pass, and I said, fuck off, get him back to Fiorentina. He has been a waste of time, an absolute waste of time. And the fact that he's injured again when he's hardly played, I mean, just get rid of him. Mason Mount is a concern. I mean, Mason Mount being injured again is a massive concern, because he's had 2 major injuries since we spent £55 million on him. He's fit. He's done reasonably well off the bench. Some of you would start him. He's not even in the first team and he's got injured again. Like, I don't know who Mason Mount is. I don't know him. I've never had any interaction with him. I thought he was a good player at Chelsea. But what's going on there? Like, what is going on with him? Is it just bad luck? Is it we've bought an injury-prone player? Why did we buy him? I don't know. But, I mean, look, this is why you should never be Player FC. You should be Manchester United FC, because people go, I like Mount. I like his Instagram. I like his smile. I think he really cares about the club. What if he's injury prone? I don't care whether you like his smile. He can fuck off. Like, you've got to be harsh like that when you're running a football club. You know, Phil Jones was a lovely lad. We should have got rid of him years ago. It was a waste of money. Like, football, you've got to be harsh in football. It's about what's best for Manchester United. We don't need Mason Mount. We need somebody that's fit all season. That's what we need. We can't be paying, I mean, God knows what we're paying him. I don't know. But it's massive disappointment about Mason Mount, because, you know, there is no alternative now, is there? I sort of look at that team today, and there's no Mason Mount on the bench that I would like to bring on or start. He's not going to be there. You know, as we approach the game, I have to say I'm sort of back in that mode of where I have been. I prefer talking about Man United at the moment when we don't play. As soon as we play a game, I'm probably the most anti-Ten Hag when Man United play a game, because that's where he loses me. I'm firmly behind not sacking the manager. I think it's a massive mistake. I think getting rid of the players has to happen, and the only way that'll happen is if we clear out this summer, and the only way that'll happen is if we stick with the manager. But I tell you what, if it goes wrong today and he's picking the wrong players and he's doing the wrong subs, I know I'm going to lose it with him. I know I am. But, you know. Glazes at Wembley today, says Ryan. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to talk about the Glazers on the morning of such a massive game. I think we've got to be positive, get behind the players, get behind the team, which is why I don't want to make excuses, which is why I don't want to start the negativity about anything. I think we've just got to get behind the team and the players that are there. But the Glazers are a huge issue. They're still here. Like, they're physically still here. There is, on the one hand, Ineos have bought Man United and it's all about Sir Jim. But on the other hand, the Glazers still own the football club, half of it. And they will be at Wembley today. I don't want to get into this, but I will be honest about it, because there's no point in shirking anything. When those cameras cut to the Glazers today, I'm somewhat confused about what we're actually doing, because you've got Sir Jim Radcliffe doing things, but then you've got the Glazers still stood there like they have been for the last 20 years as owners of the football club. And what is it we're selling here? I mean, it's weird to me, because for the last few years, it's been Glazers out, marchers, games cancelled, etc. No one likes the Glazers. So Jim comes in and buys 25%, stands with the Glazers, and we're all meant to go, this is the future. They're still... So basically, they've got away with it. They're still here then. So Jim just stands next to him, and we're meant to all go, everything's fine. And that's basically what happened. We didn't get a full sale. We didn't get the Glazers out. They still own the majority of the football club. All that's happened is Sir Jim's bringing a load of positivity. We're meant to buy into that, and then we're meant to buy into the fact that he's standing with the Glazers. It's hard. It's a hard one, and I haven't got the time this morning to waste my mental state trying to work through that. But the truth is, you've got Sir Jim and Hope, but he's actually holding hand with the Glazers, and that's hard. It's really hard, because they don't deserve to be anywhere near our football club. The reason Old Trafford's going to get knocked down is because they let it rust. The reason we've got all these crappy players and spent so much, and the reason we're in debt, is because of them. But they fly into London to stand with Sir Jim Radcliffe, and we're meant to go, oh, everything's fine. Like, Man United's just... I've said it for a long time, and I still say this now. We may get better. Hopefully we will. But to me, there is a stench around Manchester United still. And I don't know what it is, but I don't necessarily think it's a good one. I hope I'm wrong, but to me, even now, I still feel there's something that in 5, 6, 7 years' time will go, we got played. I don't know what it is. And a few people have said that to me. In fact, a very prominent journalist said that to me about 2 months ago. Said something just doesn't smell right about this, but nobody knows what it is. And I just said, well, hopefully Ineos will own all the football club in the next 5 years and the Glazers will be gone. But who knows? It's too deep to talk about today. Morning, Mark. Colin says Eric Ten Hag refused to sign a fitness coach. This is on him. That's not true. A 3-star player pulling all the stops is better than a 5-star player half-assing it. Exactly, Mr. Glenn Johnson. So what you're basically saying is that instead of spending £55 million on Mason Mount, who can be an 8 out of 10, but is never available, we'd have been better off spending £30 million on a 7 out of 10 who's available every week. And that, you know, you're probably right. Don't you think we need more than a Rabiot on a free for midfield, says Morgs? 100%, yeah. And Z3 Music Official says, to be completely honest, in retrospect, we could have re-signed Fred and got a better run. Look, we never should have let De Gea go, and we never should have let Fred go. In hindsight, they were bad deals. Definitely. Dia says, do you honestly have faith in the new board set up to make these strong changes of letting certain overplayed players go? No, not yet, Dia. Proof will be in the pudding. Ayesh says Luke Shaw is one of my favourite players, but he needs to be dealt properly. He's one of the most injury players. Look, Ayesh, Luke Shaw's not playing today. He's one of my favourite players. He's brilliant. But do you want an honest statement? Luke Shaw will never, ever, 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 ever be fit for Man United again. He won't. His body is never, ever, ever going to deal with the way that we want to play. You put Luke Shaw in a Man City team or a Liverpool team or an Arsenal team, he won't play half a season. His body cannot deal with the modern game. It's broken. And he's a fantastic player, and there's a reason for it. He had a horrible injury at a very young age, but he's just deteriorating. And it's such a shame because he's such a massive player, but it's an honest conversation. I like Luke Shaw, but he's never going to play at the top level again. He'll probably get back for the end of the season, go to the Euros and break down 3 or 4 games in because his body, I don't think, can deal with it. I'd love to be wrong on that, but this is what I mean about getting players back. What if Martinez never gets back to being able to play a full season again and he's only in his mid-20s? Like, we just don't know the impacts of these injuries. We just don't know. Let me just go back to that comment from Colin Moore about Ten Hag refusing to sign a fitness coach. This is on him. Colin, we did this about 4 weeks ago because we do our research. The fitness side of Manchester United, one of them has been there for a decade and 2 of them have been there for about 5 or 6 years. Eric Ten Hag doesn't have the authority to sack those people and bring in his own people. Most of Man United's coaching setup has been there for 5 years plus. This is incredible to me. When you bring in Eric Ten Hag from Ajax, how many injuries did Ajax have from overtraining? And how energetic were Ajax? They were relentless. Oh, but the Eredivisie is not as hard, Mark. Yeah, but they were playing in the Champions League. They're still running around. It's all relative. My point is, Ajax didn't have an injury crisis when Eric Ten Hag was there. Man United do. There are a multitude of reasons for this. We don't have the right type of players to play that style of football and their bodies aren't capable. Look at Luke Shaw. But more importantly, one of the most amazing things that never gets spoken about, Jose Mourinho, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, Ralf Rangnick, Eric Ten Hag. You bring them in, they are not one piece of the puzzle. They need their fitness specialists, their diet specialists, their coaching staff. They need the right people around them to implement what they're all about. Eric Ten Hag has been given barely a handful of his own people across the whole of the coaching network. And Man United have got loads of coaches. I've been to Carrington. It's absolutely a wash for people in tracksuits. Most of our training ground, whether it's, I don't know, the guy who puts the cones out, the girl who does the drills, whatever, they will have been here for years. The fitness department, the medical department, they've been here for years. Manchester United, and I'm sure Ineos must be looking at this, but it's a fact that Ten Hag wasn't allowed to come into the job and say, sack those 30 people and recruit these 30 people. And it's what should have happened, but we've not done it. So you bring a manager in. It's like bringing Gordon Ramsay in to turn around Erdington McDonald's, right? Am I allowed to bring in my own sous chef, my own pastry chef? No, you're going to work with Dave and Karen. They've been here for years. They're great at the fryer. Like, you can only do so much as the chef. You need the team below you, and we've never done it. We didn't do it for Mourinho. We didn't do it for Ollie. Not that Ollie would have known anybody, really. He was an interim. He was just happy to be there. But you get my point. No manager has been allowed to clear out the coaching and the medical and the diet and everything like that and bring in their own people. So I don't really know what your point was, really, because we're not to do that. And Rangnick wanted to do it. Rangnick was... Remember when Rangnick came in for 5 months and he literally couldn't find any staff? I think he wanted to bring a computer analyst over. I think he did. And he just couldn't get the people, and then he was gone in 6 months. Sometimes I ponder about how emotional and mental energy I put in supporting United, says Rahul. Much of club functioning is beyond control and frustrating, says Rahul. Mark Richards, thank you very much. Yeah, look, it's a massive game for Manchester United today. But there are huge issues beyond it. I think we need to get back on track to the game, though. My thoughts about this game is that in no way, shape or form am I confident. I'm very concerned because when the draw came out, I was dancing around this room because I was like, Coventry's an easy game. But, you know, football has a way of biting you in the arse. We've got the players to win this game. They owe it to the fans to win this game. Coventry are going to give absolutely everything. And I hate to use the words of Jurgen Klopp, but we've got to run harder for longer before the quality comes through. And if we don't run harder for longer, they will beat us. We've got to match their energy in the first 15 minutes. And if we don't, we will lose. And if we lose, we're going to be sat here on the match reaction talking about, will they sack Ten Hag tomorrow? That's how big a loss will be, because it's a season ender. It's over. We're not going to get Champions League football. We're not going to win a trophy. We're probably not going to end up in Europe at all. So we have to win this game today. It's a high pressure game. It's an exciting game. It's Wembley, but we have to win. Thanks everybody for watching. You're absolute legends. Massive game for us. Make sure you smash a like, and also please do subscribe to the channel. It's a 3:30 kickoff, if my memory serves me correct. So we will be live with the countdown to kickoff show at about 2 o'clock. I think we've got Kev's Van Cam as well coming in as well. Also, can I just give a big personal shout out to everybody who has pre-ordered the book, Football According to Mark Goldbridge. You can pre-order it now. We do ship them worldwide through the Amazon link. You can get signed copies through WH Smith. You can get the Audible copy as well. If you scan the QR code, it will give you all the choices there. Also, if you click the link in the chat, you can do that through there. Really amazing how many people are like supporting this, and very excited about it. And there's a bit of a tour going on with it. There's a bit of book signings and stuff coming up later on in the summer. So really excited about that. And thank you as always, everybody, for your support. Okay, I will see you later. Let's get ready. It's going to be interesting. Take care.